It seems that the Indian Secret Service was involved in doing it. It wasn't reported by the Afghan media or the international media, but Indian media carried it very heavily. And I've heard from people who know about these things that the Indian Secret Service tipped off the Afghan Secret Service, and that's how it was busted December 10 in Kabul.
How was China using this operation?
Well, it seems that they were using a Chinese restaurant in Kabul as their base. 10 people were arrested, and when they were arrested, they were found with guns, ammunition, explosives, and the party drug ketamine. And from what I understand from my sources, they were working closely with a group called the Haqqani Network, which is associated with the Taliban, which is the enemy of the Afghan government, as you know. And they were trying to hunt down Uyghurs who may be based in Afghanistan working for an organisation called the East Turkestan Independence Movement that supports the independence of the region of Xinjiang as a homeland for Muslim Uyghurs. They've done it before. They've worked with the Afghan authorities, and the Afghan authorities in the past have cooperated with the Chinese to hunt down Uyghurs, capture them, and deport them to China. But this was a secret thing, and people told me it had been operating in Kabul for 6 or 7 years and operating unilaterally, working with a registered and listed terrorist group, basically against the interests of the Afghan state.
Indeed. It's interesting too, because you've also reported how the Afghan government is now trying to use this, now public revelation, to recalibrate a mining deal that they signed with China well over 10 years ago. There's been no development. Was this just a big ruse from China to really do whatever they wanted?
Well, I think it's become pretty clear in recent years that China just does whatever it wants. And I think that was certainly the case in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is very small, very poor, but very strategic geographically. What the Chinese want to do is get infrastructure programs going, projects going, so that they can build rail and road, and they can get their own manufactured goods from their industrial centres to Europe faster. You can do that much faster and cheaper if you can put it all on a railway. And so part of the deal with what's called the Mezainak copper mine was that they would build railroads. So first you build a railroad up the centre of Afghanistan, through the Wakhan corridor to Western China, to Xinjiang, and you get the copper in, and then you further develop the infrastructure project so you can get your manufactured goods out. And it's been reported, and it's pretty clear, that China is doing cooperative deals with the Taliban to make sure that if and when the Taliban come to power in Afghanistan, that they can get infrastructure projects off the ground to do just that. Now, the Mezainak mine holds 5.5 million tonnes of high-grade copper. And as you know, as it's developing its economy, China has a huge hunger for raw materials. And so it was pretty much a part of that. But China also controls the copper price because it consumes more than 50% of the world's copper production. And by not developing the mine, they're pretty much keeping a lid on supply and controlling the price. So probably pretty disingenuous for them to tell the Afghans, we'll mine the copper and you'll make money from it, while holding the copper for their own purposes.
So quite a double game that they've been playing with Afghan authorities. Do you think Afghanistan will stand up to them, and is there a chance that they could then cancel this contract and sign it and find another company willing to take that on and develop it?
Well, that's what they say they're willing to do. China had concessions to pump oil and gas in the north near the border with Uzbekistan, and those contracts have been cancelled. What the Ministry of Mines in Kabul has told me is that they're renegotiating some of the technical aspects of the contract but they've said that unless China steps up and starts mining the copper so that revenues can flow into the much depleted coffers of the Afghan government, that they're going to put it up for tender. There's no deadline. They want to see where they go with negotiations first, but Afghanistan needs the money, and they've basically told China, get on with it.
Yeah, and very interesting. We're also seeing, Lynne, an uptick in violence in Afghanistan. Of course, there's that uncertainty as the US transfers power to the Biden administration. How might that impact Afghanistan and allow it to perhaps settle things down a little compared to the Trump era?
The new administration in Washington has made it pretty clear that they're going to revisit a bilateral agreement that the Trump administration struck with the Taliban. Trump went straight to the Taliban to open talks to try and get a peace process going so that he could pull out US troops and end what have been called the forever wars. Now there's only 2,500 US troops left in Afghanistan. And the US-led international military effort is aimed at training up the Afghan forces so that they can stand alone. We're nowhere near that point yet. But what's happening at the moment is that everything seems to be going the Taliban's way. And there's a very dangerous, in my opinion, a rather dangerous campaign in favour of an interim government so that the current apparently democratically elected, but certainly internationally supported government of President Ashraf Ghani does a deal with the Taliban, brings them into the power equation. But it's very delicate, and I think that the Biden administration is showing a little bit more sensitivity towards what's going on the ground, which is a horrendous uptick in violence. Every day there are now targeted attacks. It's not just seemingly random bombings, suicide attacks and all of that sort of thing. People are opening their front doors in Kabul to go to work and being shot on the street. People, journalists, civil rights workers, people working with the Ministry of Peace, anybody who has worked with NATO, the US government, the foreigners. It's a really horrific situation at the moment. Something's got to give.
Indeed. Lynne, really great to benefit from your expertise in this field. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Bev.